Welcome to my channel, dear viewers. Today, I have two very chilling stories prepared for you. It's astonishing what murderers think they can get away with when committing such foolish and reckless crimes. But the price they pay is either life in prison or the death penalty. Which of the two stories do you think is scarier? Let me know in the comments. Kong was singing joyfully about how much he missed his son, whom he was about to see for the first time in 2 years. But less than 24 hours later, he would become the victim of a brutal and tragic fate, one that was orchestrated by someone he least expected such cruelty from. If you want to know the story behind this shocking case that shook Korean society, don't miss this video. This is the case of Kong. Clues, evidence, and traces. All of these help investigators solve crimes. The past of both the victim and the perpetrator allows us to understand their behavior. All of this becomes part of the criminal file, and I'm here to present it to you. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications about new videos. And of course, don't forget to like at the end. Without further ado, let's dive into the details of this case. Due to South Korea's privacy laws, very little information about Kang is available. What is known is that he was born between 1982 and 1983 on Gyeogu Island, the largest island in South Korea, formed millions of years ago through volcanic activity. Kong had a younger brother, 3 years his junior, and he attended Gyeogu National University. It was there that he met a woman named Ko Yu-yeon, whom we will refer to simply as Ko. She was also from Gyeogu and was the eldest of 3 children in her family. Despite her parents' divorce, a taboo in Korea, Ko's father quickly remarried. Ko and her siblings enjoyed a privileged upbringing, as their father was a successful businessman. As an adult, Ko occasionally worked in her family's car rental business. She studied chemistry at Gyeogu National University, and it was through a student volunteer movement that she met Kong. Soon after, they began dating. The families of Kong and Ko got along well. The younger siblings of both families even won a government prize in a scriptwriting competition in 2009, with Kong's help, as he was passionate about writing. Kong also wrote a screenplay that won a prize from the State Cultural Fund in 2012, a recognition shared with Ko and her brother. In 2013, after 5 years of dating, Kang and Ko got married, and they had a son together. During this time, Ko's friends described her as intelligent, caring, and gentle. However, their marriage soon crumbled, and Ko revealed a dark side that no one could have ever imagined. In 2017, Kong filed for divorce, accusing his wife of domestic violence. In later interviews, a friend of Kong revealed that the man had confided in him about Ko's occasional aggression, even in the presence of their son. However, Kong never wanted to speak ill of her, as she was the mother of his child. In response to her future ex-husband's accusations, Ko claimed that it was Kong who bore greater responsibility for the breakdown of their marriage due to his alleged alcohol dependency and constant absence from home. To those who knew Kang, these claims seemed suspicious, as he was not known to drink alcohol. Kong was a devoted father who deeply loved his son, and he tried to gain custody. However, his financial situation prevented him from being able to fully support the child, as he was in the process of obtaining his doctorate. The authorities deemed it in the best interest of the child to remain with his mother. The court ruled in favor of Ko, but granted Kong the right to see his son twice a month. Despite his financial difficulties, Kong worked part-time and pooled his income with research grants to provide 400,000 Korean won, about 283 USD, in child support each month. He lived on the bare minimum. However, Ko refused to let him see his son. She ignored his messages, and when Kong came to the house, she simply wouldn't open the door. On one occasion, even Kong's mother tried to speak to her former daughter-in-law, pleading to see the child. But Ko only mocked them and dismissed their requests. Even though Kang couldn't see his son, he continued to try to be part of his life. He often told his friends how proud he was of his boy, and on special occasions, he would send gifts with a receipt so that his son could exchange them if he already had something similar, or if he didn't like the gift. After some time, Ko remarried, this time to a civil servant from Haeju named Hong, who also had a son from a previous marriage. The couple moved to Cheonghu, in North Chuncheon province. While Ko built a new life with her new husband, she left her son on the island in the care of her parents. At first, Kong's family didn't know that the child had effectively been abandoned by his mother. However, when they found out and attempted to see him again, Ko continued to deny any visitation, even though she was now living thousands of kilometers away. Eventually, a frustrated Kang filed a complaint against his ex-wife. The court ruled that Ko had broken the law and ordered her to allow Kang to see his son, specifying a particular date for the visit. On May 25, 2019, Ko returned to Haeju and met with Kang, finally allowing him to see his son for the first time in 2 years. To celebrate the occasion, the father gave his son a massive set of building blocks. The former couple and their child spent the day at an amusement park. They then stopped by a supermarket to buy ingredients for dinner and returned to the vacation home Ko had rented, where they planned to spend the evening. Later, Kang's brother claimed that the loving father was unaware that the plan included staying overnight in the same house with his son and ex-wife. That night, Ko prepared curry. After dinner, the boy went to play video games in another room, while Kang called his father via video chat, sharing how happy he was to spend the day with his son. This was the last time Kang was seen alive. On May 27th, his brother began to worry. Kang hadn't been in touch with his family for 2 days after the meeting with Ko and their son. He hadn't sent any pictures of the child, nor had he shared any updates about the visit. Fearing something terrible might have happened, Kang's brother contacted the police that same day. Authorities reached out to Ko, as she was the last person to have been in contact with Kang. When the police asked her about her ex-husband, Ko began to cry. She claimed that on the night of May 25th, Kang had tried to rape her, and after she fought him off, he ran out of the rented home. According to her, he never returned, and she added that she was worried Kang might avoid any legal responsibility for his actions. The police asked her to come to the station to give an official statement, but Ko replied that she was no longer on the island. However, she mentioned that she had a text conversation with her ex-husband after he fled. According to Ko, she texted him that she planned to file a complaint against him, to which Kang allegedly responded that he was sorry and was just shocked by her remarriage. A few hours later, Kang's family filed a missing person report and suggested the possibility of suicide. In response, the police began treating the case as a disappearance, focusing their efforts on finding Kang. According to the head of the Chehdonbu police, more than 90% of adult men reported missing return home voluntarily, so they are considered a low-risk group in such cases. After another conversation with Ko about the events of May 25th, authorities went to the supermarket that the family had visited that evening. In the parking lot, they found Kang's car. The vehicle was searched for tools or substances that might indicate a suicide attempt, but nothing was found. However, the police did not conduct a thorough examination of the car, nor did they check the built-in dashcam. The police were also able to trace Kang's cell phone a few kilometers away from the rented residence, but this provided no new leads. As for the rented house itself, it was not initially searched, as new tenants had already moved in. There were no security cameras on the property, and the investigation hit a dead end. The police were unable to make any progress in Kang's disappearance. Frustrated by the lack of progress from the authorities, Kang's brother decided to start his own investigation. On May 28th, he presented the police with surveillance footage from a nearby building. The video showed Kang entering the residence on May 25th with his ex-wife and their son, but he was never seen leaving the house. Ko, on the other hand, left the house with their son on May 26th and returned alone after some time. Then, on May 27th, the last day of their stay, she was seen leaving the house with 2 suitcases and 2 black garbage bags, which she disposed of in the trash. According to the footage, Kang never left the house. After Kang's brother provided this video evidence, authorities began to suspect that this was more than just a missing person case. On May 31st, 2019, 4 days after the missing person report was filed, the police finally searched the rented home, conducting a luminol test to detect traces of blood. The results revealed large bloodstains on the bathroom floor, the living room, the kitchen, and the ceiling of the bedroom. Finally, the police began to suspect Ko. Later, they would admit that up until that point, they had no reason to suspect her, as she had been cooperating with the police and providing credible information. On June 1st, Ko was arrested at her home in Cheongju on suspicion of murdering her ex-husband. She was shocked when taken into custody. Once under arrest, Ko changed her statement about the events of the night of May 25th. She claimed that Kong attacked her while she was cutting a watermelon, and she defended herself with the knife she was holding. However, she did not disclose the whereabouts of the victim's remains. On June 4th, the court issued an arrest warrant for Ko, valid until June 13th. The authorities needed to find substantial evidence linking her to the murder. Otherwise, she would be released when the warrant expired. That same day, the forensic department was called to the crime scene to collect evidence and take photographs. When the owner of the rented home learned what was happening, he expressed his dissatisfaction, stating that the police presence was bad for his business, and asked them to leave so he could conduct a thorough cleaning. The police agreed, which hindered further examination of the crime scene and the collection of additional evidence. This decision was later heavily criticized by the public for compromising the investigation. On June 5th, human remains were discovered at a waste processing plant in Incheon, which authorities believed could belong to the victim. At the family's insistence, Ko's identity was made public. In Korea, due to the presumption of innocence and strict defamation laws, a suspect's face is usually blurred on television, and their name is withheld. However, this is allowed if certain conditions are met. The suspect must be an adult. The crime must be violent and cause serious harm. There must be strong evidence of guilt, and revealing their identity must be in the public's interest. On the same day, Hong Ko's second husband visited her in jail. During their conversation, she asked if the police had taken her bag. This question struck Hong as odd, and when he returned home, he decided to check his wife's belongings. There, he found a prescription for zolpidem that the police had not confiscated. Zolpidem is a sedative used to treat insomnia. Hong immediately went to the police station and presented the drug as potential evidence. However, it wasn't until June 9th, just 4 days before the arrest warrant was set to expire, that the police began investigating the pharmacy that issued the prescription to Ko. The National Forensic Service of Korea had already expressed doubts about what information could be extracted from a small sample of Kang's blood. But when the lab conducted an analysis the next day, the result revealed the presence of zolpidem. If Hong hadn't provided this evidence, the police would never have learned about the sedative's existence, and Ko would likely have been released, as the discovery of the drug among her belongings was what ultimately linked her to Kang's death. When examining Ko's search history on her phone, police discovered that on May 9, 2019, after the court ordered her to schedule a meeting between Kong and their son, Ko made several suspicious internet searches. These included terms such as sedatives, lethal dose of nicotine, crematorium, bone grinder, bone weight, and travel suitcases. Then, on May 17th, she was prescribed zolpidem to treat insomnia, with a dosage meant for a week-long course. A few days later, on May 22nd, surveillance cameras at a local supermarket captured Ko purchasing a knife, bleach, cleaning supplies, and rubber gloves. Inside Ko's car, police later found a saw and other tools used to commit the crime. According to the owner of the rented residence, Ko insisted on not being disturbed during her stay. He also noted that on the morning of May 27th, she was cleaning the house alone. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, except for a broken flower pot and some missing towels. Since Ko did not provide a full confession, the police developed a hypothesis about what they believed occurred on the night of the crime. As previously mentioned, after returning from the amusement park, Ko prepared dinner. Authorities suspect this is when she laced her ex-husband's food with the sedative. Kong went to bed and was able to speak with his father around 8 p.m., but did not respond to a call from his younger brother at 9:16 p.m., likely because the drug had already taken effect. Ko told her son to stay in the other room and continue playing video games. According to the investigation and blood evidence, Ko then repeatedly stabbed Kang with a knife. Kang awoke and ran toward the door, passing through the kitchen before succumbing to his injuries. At approximately 9:50 p.m., the owner of the house called, and in the recording of the call, Ko could be heard telling her son to go to bed, and that she would join him after cleaning up, all in a playful tone. The next day, Ko left the child with her parents and returned to the rented house, where authorities believe she dismembered the victim's body. Kang was not a small man. He stood about 180 centimeters tall and weighed approximately 80 kilograms. After Ko finished dismembering the body, she packed the remains into 2 small suitcases. During the process, She cut her hand with the saw she was using. After leaving the house, Ko went to a nearby clinic to have her wound treated. Around 5 p.m. on May 27th, Ko falsified a text conversation between herself and Kong, which she later showed to the police. During the investigation, it was revealed that when authorities contacted her and she claimed to have already left the island, she was actually staying at a motel on Jeju Island. Later, around 9 p.m. on May 28th, as Ko was returning to the mainland by ferry, surveillance cameras captured her disposing of trash bags into the sea over a period of 7 minutes. The next day, she arrived in Gimpo, where her parents owned an apartment. She disposed of a few more bags of trash there and also purchased a ladder, tarp, and a protective suit similar to those used in hospitals and laboratories. Authorities speculated that this purchase was necessary to further dismember Kong's remaining body parts into smaller fragments, which she then discarded before returning home to Cheongju on May 31st. The next day, she was arrested by the police. On June 12th, Ko was handed over to the prosecution, and the trial began exactly 2 months later, on August 12th, 2019. The case drew national attention, with some people claiming they had traveled from various provinces just to attend the court hearings. The court provided public entry passes on a first-come, first-served basis. Parallel to the trial for Kang's murder, Ko's second husband, Hong, who by that time had already initiated the process of annulling their marriage, filed a lawsuit against her for negligence that led to the death of his son, Hong Seon-bin, who was 4 years old at the time. The boy, a child from Hong's previous marriage, had been living with his mother. At one point, Ko asked to take the child home, and within 48 hours, Hong Seon-bin had died of asphyxiation. Initially, Hong himself was under investigation, as he had been sleeping in the same bed as his son. It was assumed that he may have accidentally suffocated the boy while asleep. However, Hong stated that on the night before his son's death, Ko had prepared curry, just as she had done on the night of Kang's murder on May 25th. According to experts, curry could have masked the bitter taste of zolpidem. The defense attempted to justify the events by portraying Kang as a sexual predator with a history of violence, who had allegedly tried to assault the accused. They also tried to garner sympathy for Ko by claiming she was the only remaining parent for her son. She insisted that the murder was not premeditated. However, the public and media present in the courtroom sharply criticized these arguments. The prosecution, in contrast, presented evidence that unequivocally pointed to Ko's guilt. They provided forensic results showing zolpidem in the victim's bloodstream, which contradicted the self-defense claim. Blood traces of Kang were also found in Ko's car, and on the saw she used to dismember his body. When the judges asked Ko if she wanted a jury trial, she declined. During the court session held in January 2020, prosecutors requested the death penalty for Ko for the 2 alleged murders. However, the court on Jeju Island acquitted her of the charges related to the death of her stepson, citing discrepancies in the additional evidence. Ultimately, she was found guilty of Kang's murder, with the court emphasizing that a severe sentence was inevitable, as she had shown no remorse or sympathy for her victim. Ko never revealed what drove her to commit the crime, and Kang's family claims she never uttered a single word of regret or asked for forgiveness. After Ko's identity was made public in June 2019, a petition began circulating across the country, demanding that she be sentenced to death. More than 210,000 people signed the petition, including Kang's younger brother. Despite public pressure, on February 20, 2020, Ko Yu-yeon, then 37 years old, was sentenced to life in prison. Despite the efforts of Korean authorities, Kang's remains were never found. In the end, without a body, the victim's family held a funeral, using 7 strands of hair collected from his favorite hat. In an emotional video, Kang's younger brother stated that he would dedicate his life to honoring and preserving his older brother's memory. The family also made public the final moments of Kang's life, captured on his car's dashcam. In the recording, he can be heard singing and talking about how much he missed his son. The horrific actions of Ko Yu-yeon not only deprived Kang's son of a loving father who desperately wanted to be with him, but also condemned the boy to a life overshadowed by the knowledge that his own mother committed a crime that made her one of the most notorious women in South Korea. In early May 2014, in Osaka, Japan, in one of the multi-apartment buildings, a middle-aged woman turned with a look of alarm. She had come in search of her daughter, with whom she had lost contact. Her daughter, Rika Okada, a 29-year-old nurse known for her responsibility, had not shown up for work or responded to any calls since late March. Grieving with worry, the mother decided to visit her daughter's apartment herself. As she approached the door, various thoughts flooded her mind. Surely she's just at home, overwhelmed. Or, what if something worse has happened? With each passing moment, her anxiety grew, and finally she cautiously opened the door, only to have her legs buckle at the sight that met her. The home was drenched in blood. With a scream, she rushed inside but saw no sign of her daughter. In a panic, the woman called the police, and soon officers and forensic experts arrived at the scene. Upon examining the site, they determined that the blood found in the apartment belonged to Rika. Surprisingly, there were no signs of forced entry, nor were any valuables missing. This indicated that Rika was likely attacked by someone she would have willingly let in, and then abducted. The fate of the young nurse remained unclear. While the police were searching for Rika Okada, they stumbled upon several odd circumstances. Nearly a month had passed since communication with her was lost in March 2014, and in April, a new passport was issued in Rika's name. Upon examining the records, they noticed something strange. The photograph in the passport was not of Rika, but another woman. This indicated a misuse of her personal data. The police immediately classified the woman in the photograph as a suspect and continued their investigation. At the same time, it was discovered that a storage unit, known in Japan as a trunk room, had been rented in Rika's name in mid-April. This place was meant for storing unnecessary items. Interestingly, this storage facility was located 200 kilometers away from Osaka in Hachioji, Tokyo. Upon checking the records, the police found that dolls were stored there, and they had been shipped from Osaka to Tokyo. This was highly suspicious. The police immediately headed to this storage facility in Tokyo. When they arrived and opened the door, they were met with a terrible odor. Inside was a package much larger than a typical doll. It was the corpse of Rika Okada, wrapped in plastic film. After the autopsy, it was determined that the body was in a severely decomposed state. Rika Okada likely died around March when she lost contact with everyone. Numerous stab wounds were found on the upper part of her body, indicating she had been brutally attacked. Thus, the murder occurred in Okada's apartment, after which the perpetrator wrapped the body and left it in a storage unit in Hachioji. All evidence now pointed to the woman in the passport photo. Immigration records revealed that on the 3rd of May, she had flown to Shanghai. After obtaining and analyzing airport surveillance footage, the police confirmed that it was indeed this woman with Okada's passport boarding the plane. Interestingly, another woman was with her, and there were no records of either returning to Japan. Her name was Oishi Yuri, a 29-year-old of Japanese-Brazilian descent. Surprisingly, she had been a classmate of Okada's. Although they were not close, what had transpired between them over the last few months? As it turned out, in February and March of 2014, Okada and 3 of her classmates indeed met for dinner. Photos from this gathering were preserved on Okada's social media, and one of them captured the very same Oishi Yuri. Recently, it came to light that fingerprints found on the film wrapping the victim's corpse also belonged to Oishi Yuri. All evidence pointed to her as the suspect. However, the challenge was that she was in Shanghai, and arresting a Brazilian citizen abroad was not straightforward. The Japanese police issued a warrant for her arrest on charges of disposing of the body, but enforcing it overseas proved difficult. Locating and detaining her in China was challenging. The police were in a precarious situation. They knew who the murderer was but could not apprehend her. Then, an unexpected event occurred. At the end of May 2014, Oishi voluntarily went to the Japanese consulate in China. However, she did not intend to admit guilt. Instead, she came to refute all allegations. She claimed, "She was my friend. I could not have killed her. And using her passport was merely a borrowed document. We had agreements on this." Her audacity shocked everyone. However, these words only worsened her situation. She was in China, where illegal entry into the country is considered a serious crime. Moreover, she had used someone else's passport to enter the country, which is also a criminal offense. As a result, Oishi was arrested by the Chinese police before the Japanese authorities could deal with her case. For Japan, this posed a significant problem, as they could not extradite her for trial until her detention issues in China were resolved. Time passed, and 2 years went by unnoticed. During this period, the Japanese police unsuccessfully tried to extradite her. Finally, the time came when Oishi was returned to Japan. On the 1st of January 2017, Oishi finally landed in Japan, where she faced trial for the murder of Rika Okada. However, the process was fraught with difficulties. She vehemently denied all charges, asserting that yes, she had used the passport, but with Rika's consent. Yet how could she explain that the body was found in a storage rented under Rika's name? The police concluded that Oishi Yuri had unlawfully used Rika Okada's credit card, but this was merely circumstantial evidence, which alone proved nothing. In such a scenario, Oishi, having returned to Japan, could have easily avoided punishment. The detectives urgently needed direct evidence. They decided to reinvestigate the case. The presumed crime scene was Rika's apartment in Osaka. The question arose: how could the perpetrator have transported the body to Tokyo? The answer was simple: through a delivery service. The body was wrapped in a package resembling a doll. However, upon investigating further, the police discovered that this doll was not sent directly to the storage unit, but to another address, which was later used for its storage. Upon quickly checking this address, the police found that it was only 500 meters from the storage facility. It was the house where Oishi was renting a room. Another crucial character in this story is the cohabitant who also went to Shanghai. This was the very woman who lived with her. This was indeed a pivotal discovery, as all the pieces began to fall into place. The police gained confidence and started interrogating Oishi with renewed vigor. They stated, "All facts are now clear. If you lie, your sentence will only increase." The police continuously pressured her, and unable to bear it, Oishi eventually decided to tell the truth about that day. Oishi Yuri completed her elementary and secondary schooling in Japan, then moved to Brazil. When she turned 20, she returned to Japan and settled in Osaka, earning a living by working in a convenience store. At some point, she became embroiled in financial troubles with a foreigner she knew, which ultimately led to her losing her residency rights in Japan. Oishi held Brazilian citizenship, so she could no longer stay in Japan. In this difficult situation, her cohabitant, a Chinese woman named Aishi, came to her aid. They met while working at the same store and quickly became friends, as both were foreigners, one from China, the other from Brazil. Their friendship was so strong that soon Oishi followed Aishi and moved to Tokyo in Hachioji. Aishi had been studying at the university since 2011, and Oishi decided to support her by becoming her roommate. After that, Aishi provided substantial support to Oishi. While Oishi, effectively an illegal immigrant, could not find regular work, Aishi took on the financial responsibility. They lived in an apartment rented by Aishi. Due to their closeness, there were rumors that they might be in a romantic relationship, but this was never confirmed. In any case, it was clear that Oishi was heavily dependent on Aishi both financially and emotionally. And then, like a bolt from the blue, news arrived. Aishi had secured a job with a Japanese company in Shanghai. She planned to start a new life in Shanghai in the autumn of 2013, which was when the crime occurred. What would become of Oishi? She was on the verge of parting ways with Aishi and fell into deep contemplation. Since staying in Japan was not an option for her, she decided that she must follow Aishi to Shanghai again. However, other problems arose. Oishi had been in Japan illegally for nearly 6 years. She began to panic. If I leave the country with my passport, will I be arrested? And if they catch me, will I be able to enter China? These thoughts troubled her. Her dream of a life together with Aishi in Shanghai was starting to crumble. In desperation, Oishi decided to find a way to switch her identity to avoid arrest. She began searching for a woman who had never obtained a passport, would be of the same age, and lived alone. In her attempts to find such a woman, she sifted through Facebook profiles. Then, she came across her elementary school classmates. One of them met all the criteria. And so, the victim was chosen: Okada. The reason was that Okada had never traveled abroad and had never obtained a passport. On the 1st of February 2014, 2 months before the crime, Oishi organized a small reunion of classmates. The meeting brought together 4 friends, and on Okada's social media page, there was a post about how she eagerly awaited this meeting. Photos taken after the meeting were also posted. Unfortunately, Okada, unsuspecting, was eagerly looking forward to meeting with Oishi. After the meeting ended, Oishi continued to engage with her, showing excessive attention and even staying overnight at her place. Then, she began to message persistently, saying that they got along very well and suggesting they meet more often for lunch or coffee, gradually getting closer to her target. Finally, on the 20th of March, Oishi unexpectedly showed up at Okada's door. This sudden visit greatly surprised Okada, but how could she turn away a classmate? She opened the door. However, as soon as Oishi entered, she got straight to the point. "Hello, I urgently need a passport. Give me your documents." Who could make such a request so bluntly? Even if you had been friends for 10 years, it would be normal to refuse such a request. Asking for someone else's documents is illegal. Thus, puzzled, Okada firmly refused. "What are you talking about?" But Oishi had been trying to achieve this for nearly 2 months and was not about to give up easily. She persistently persuaded, pleaded with Okada to lend her the documents. Eventually, Okada, getting angry, said, "Get out, leave my house." Nevertheless, Oishi stood by the door and refused to leave. A struggle ensued and they pushed against each other. Finally, a weary Okada, in desperation, tried to open the door to let Oishi out. At that moment, Oishi pulled out a knife from her pocket and began mercilessly stabbing Okada in the abdomen. It was not a single blow. She continued to stab Okada, and soon, bleeding profusely, Okada collapsed onto the floor. All this over a passport? What was happening here? It seemed that Oishi was prepared for everything. Seeing that her friend's life was fading, she immediately moved to the next step. She began to drain all the blood from Okada's body. Thus, Oishi was quite calculated in her actions. To reduce the body's weight and simplify disposal, she wrapped the corpse in plastic film, placed it in a box, and securely taped it up. After completing these manipulations, she called a delivery service and, as if nothing had happened, asked, "Is it possible to ship a large doll?" A few days later, the body was delivered to a house in Hachioji, Tokyo. On the same day, Oishi stole Okada's health insurance card. As in Japan, this document is often used as an identification card. Since it does not contain a photo, it was easy to use for her purposes. It was thanks to this that she rented the storage unit to dispose of the body. She also easily obtained a new passport. After everything was meticulously planned, Oishi calmly traveled to Shanghai with Aishi. However, she now faced trial. Here, she surprised everyone again with her behavior, claiming to suffer from dissociative identity disorder. She asserted that it was another personality, not her, who had committed the murder of Okada. Such behavior was perplexing. On the other hand, the prosecution emphasized that all criminal actions had been meticulously planned. Ultimately, in September 2020, Oishi Yuri was sentenced to life imprisonment by the Supreme Court of Japan. In her attempt to secure what she needed, she unhesitatingly took another person's life. The motives behind her crime were so selfish and straightforward that they shocked the public. Soon, rumors began to circulate that she could have been a spy or a member of a criminal organization. Doubts arose about whether Oishi was just an ordinary woman in her 20s. Her crimes were so horrific that even after her conviction, many continued to discuss her persona. Oishi, serving her sentence, probably knows herself whether she feels the full weight of her crimes.